Okay everybody, I'm back down in my workshop. This is Saturday, September 28th, last Saturday of September. It's hard to believe. Before you know it, it'll be October. Back down in my shop. I'm going to get back on the 128 scale Seaview from Mobius. I put it on hold for a while to be on a sci-fi Halloween group build, and I got the mummy done. Put it up on my YouTube channel. It turned out pretty cool. I think either today or tomorrow, it's raining outside right now, but either today or tomorrow, I bought the materials for my spray booth to extend it out another foot, and we'll probably be working on that. Keep my fingers crossed tomorrow. I'll see. That's the only thing that's going to hold me up on the Seaview, but I want to get the front end of the sub done. I got the control room done. All I got to do is put it all together on the front end of the sub. The rear end of the sub's almost done, but that's the biggest hold up on my end of finishing the sub. Is it's not, my spray booth is not big enough to put that 39-inch sub in and primer it up and paint it. That's why I hesitated building anything large that I have in my stock for kits, because my spray booth is limited on certain size kits, and the Seaview is one large sub. But I'm going to go ahead, work and focus on the front end of the sub today and get that done. I put the windows in the sub before I started the Halloween group build, and it looks really good. I'll go ahead, pause the camera, set up my workbench with the sub on the table and show everybody that part of it, and then I'll take it from there and start working on assembling the front of the sub. So I'll go ahead and pause, and I'll be right back. Alright everybody, here's a look at the Seaview. Got it on my workbench. It's just the front of the sub. I added some putty and some what is it? I added some Tamiya putty in here. You can see if the camera's picking it up, and then I also added some Bondo in a few spots. I want to get learning and working more on using this Bondo. But take a look at the front. I've got the windows in. They're nice and clear. They look really sharp. Look pretty cool. And I put those in probably about a month ago. And now all I got to do is put the control room in on the bottom. I'll probably use tester's glue and tack it in right there and on the front, just to get it to catch. And then sides here that you can see, I'm going to probably use the Tamiya extra thin, but I'm going to go ahead. I've got the control room in the box that the model came in, so I'm going to go ahead and pull that out here in a minute. Let everybody get a look at that one more last time before I install it in the front of the sub, and I'll be right back. Alright everybody, back on the Seaview. Here's the control room. Everything's still working fine. You can see here. And then I got the front monitor there lit, and I got this side of the control room lit, and then you can see the monitor right there, and then I got some fiber optics blinking right there. Then I got some blue lights over here, and if I don't lose any power, see that at the bottom I've got the lights lit there, and I got the bay lit up, floodlights, and then on the front you got the searchlight. You can see right there it's nice and lit. And then I'll try to turn this to the side here. Everybody can see that that side's all lit up. Everything's working fine. So I'm going to do my best to get this installed in the sub today. And then I can put this to the side once it's installed, and then I can put it back in the box it came in, and I can focus on the rear of the sub. But everything's working good, everything's looking good. I just have to finish the front end up, then move on to the rear. So I figured I'd give everybody another look at the control room. And I'll pause for now, talk with everybody later. Alright everybody, this is Friday, October 4th. I'm down in my workshop. I'm going to keep my fingers crossed either today before I go into work tonight or tomorrow afternoon when I get up. Assemble the front of the sub. I've been working on the little figures, and I'm telling you they're small for 1/28 scale, and I hesitated about thinking about putting them inside the sub. I'll probably put a couple of them in there, one by the plotting table, and a couple of guys by the control panels. I've been painting them the last couple of days. I got them on my workbench, so I figured I'd show everybody the paints I used and where I stand with all that. They're really tiny for 1/28 scale. So I'll turn the camera around here and show everybody what I've done. I gotta leave 2 of the sitting ones for the flying sub. I think you get 4 or 5 of them. I think I got one in the box that the sub came in, if I'm not mistaken. But I'm going to have 2 in the control room sitting, and then the 2 officers. I think I'll probably put one by the plotting table, and probably the other one by the periscope. I'm not quite sure yet what I'm going to do. Why I thought about hesitating is I can glue them down to the floor, but I don't want them to ever come loose, and then they'd be loose on the inside of the control room, and that's why I'm still kind of hesitating. I'm going to see when I get to that part. That's the only thing really stopping me right now, putting the front of the sub together, is putting these little figures in. But I'm rambling off. I'm going to go ahead, turn the camera around, show everybody the paints I used, and they look pretty good for the scale. Not a lot of detail, so let me go ahead and turn the camera around. Alright, these 2 officers here, they turned out pretty good. I used flat black for their hair, and I know the lighting down here. I used flat black for their hair and for their shoes. And for their uniform, it was kind of tricky. I saw a little bit of a episode on YouTube, and they got like dark khaki pants and then light shirts. So I used the Model Masters Armor Sand. I think it's enamel, and there's a number right there. I ain't got my glasses on, but you can see right there it's a flat. And then for their shirts I used Random Tan, Model Masters. This is acrylic, and I think the number on here is 4722, and they turned out pretty decent. I'm happy with how they turned out. Nothing fancy, and like I said, they all look the same whether they're standing or sitting. At this scale, I'm sure Mobius couldn't do too much for detail, but they'll serve its purpose if I put them in the control room. I got 2 little guys over here. I painted in red because watching the episode, I can't tell you the episode I was watching. There's a lot of the guys were wearing red and blues. And this guy right here, painted them in flat red. And they're all going to have black hair. The red I used, I got plenty of these paints floating around yet. Testers, they're still good. There's really nothing wrong with them. When I first got in the model building, that's what I used, was these testers. I still have a lot of this in stock. It's a flat red, and that's what I used. I used Tamiya flat black for their hair and shoes. XF1. And then for their face, their complexion, I use a flat flesh Tamiya XF15. And that's about the colors I'm going to be using. The two guys I got sitting back here, I did their face and hair and their shoes. And this guy here and this guy over here is probably going to be for the flying sub. And they'll be more in, I think, dressed like these two officers here. I'm not sure. I know that Admiral Nelson wore like a black leather jacket when he flew the flying sub, so I'm not sure. I'll have to check that episode out again and see like if they always wore the leather jacket. This guy here, I just painted him with some Tamiya flat, I think it's flat blue. This is the blue I used right here. I can get it out. It's a sky blue X14, and that's what I used on this guy right here. Get a little bit more color in the control room for the guy's uniforms. He turned out pretty decent. I just painted him before I turned the camera on, so he's drying. But that's about it. Haven't done much because I'm putting back together my spray booth. And I posted a video on that yesterday, and I can show that with this video here. It's ready for me getting the sub in there once it's all assembled and ready for primer and paint. Failed to say that my brother took a 2x4, cut it 48 inches long, basically cut it in half, and I got one here in the front, one in the back to make this end here that we extended more stable, which turned out good. And then I've got paint that I'm going to probably repaint this. I may do that before I go ahead and paint the Seaview. I'll see. I might hold off and do that later. But getting back to the 128 figure, guys, not too bad. It's turning out pretty good. It's about 3:30 in the afternoon Friday, so I'm going to probably pull out the front of the sub in the box and figure out where I'm going to position these guys. Definitely one by the plotting table, and then maybe the other one up by the scope. I'll see when I get that out of the box. So I'm going to go ahead and pause for now, and I'll talk with everybody later. Alright everybody, another update on the control room is finished. I put 5 figures in. I got an officer by the vertical plotter right there, you can see. Got one in the driver's seat. I got one officer by the plotting table. And I have 2 over on that side of the control room. They turned out pretty good. I hesitated at first of putting any the figures into the control room, but I think it'll look pretty cool once it's all together. Do have it hooked up to some power, so I'm going to go ahead and turn that on. Turn the overhead light off. And with the guys in there, it's going to look pretty cool. You can see here on this side. And then I have the one there by the vertical plotter. The officer, I don't know if I can turn this around without losing power. Then you got the one sitting there in the driver's seat. And then you have, of course, the one by the plotting table. And that's all I'm going to do. I'm going to go ahead and button this up. Put this into the front of the sub today. And then once that's done, I can at least tack it in and get it installed on the front, and then maybe finish it off today or tomorrow, because this is my weekend to work. But I figured I'd give everybody another look at the control room with the figures in this time. And before I go ahead and seal it in the front of the sub, It should look pretty cool once it's all together. So I'm getting there slowly. Once I get this done, I have to focus on the rear of the sub, but that won't take as long. But I figure I'd give everybody another look at the control room before I install it in the front of the sub, and I'll talk with everybody later. Alright everybody, another update on the Seaview. Yesterday I finally attached the control room and this part, it's all together, to the front of the Seaview, and I used a very little bit of testers, old-fashioned glue over here on this where it attaches back here, and a little bit on the front. Then I finished it off with extra thin, and then I taped it all off and let it sit overnight. Then I just pulled all the tape off, and then I just applied some of the, what do I do with it? I applied in some of the gap areas, you can see here with the Tamiya putty. What I like about the Tamiya is that you can dilute it, you can thin it out with their lacquer thinner. So I'm using my Q-tips and everything to minimize my sanding. And here is a good example, like where all this is covered on the model. I'm cleaning that all up with the Q-tip and lacquer thinner, so I'll have very little sanding to do. Now I'm going to have to clean this all up around here with some sandpaper, lightly sand it. You can see here I get a little sloppy with the putty to fill in the gaps. There's a few areas on the bottom here, but not much, which is good, that I had to fill in. But instead of having to worry about sanding that all away, I can clean that up with some lacquer thinner and a Q-tip, which is good. So like I said, that's going to minimize my sanding. All I got to do is just clean up with some light sandpaper, clean these areas up. I'm going to put the lenses on maybe today or tomorrow. I'm off Monday. Again with the date, I think it's the 6th, October 6th, Sunday, October 6th. So I'll probably use some canopy glue. Where's it at? I got the canopy glue here. Formula 560. Either I'm going to use that. I don't know if I got the other stuff up here on my workbench. Maybe it's down below. That's not it. I always should be prepared when I do these videos. It's another thing I got to brush up on. Here it is. Or I'm going to use micro crystal clear. Might use this stuff to put the lenses, the clear lenses on the floodlights and then the front. Turned out good. I love the Tamiya extra thin. This is really good glue. It gets right down in the cracks and the seams and does a nice job of bonding everything. So that's what I'm doing today, is I'm cleaning up the seams on the bottom here. Very minimal work. I'm going to be careful because I'm not at all a professional when it comes to seam work. I hate seam work. It's just as bad as decals. But I'm going to go ahead and maybe flip this over, hook it up to some power, and everybody can take a look on the inside. It looks pretty cool now that it's all together on the front. And I got the windows in and it looks pretty cool. So I'm rattling off. Go ahead and pause and I'll be right back. Okay everybody, back on the Seaview. I got it hooked up to my power. It's on 9 volts. You can see the inside of the sub. That really looks cool. Looking through the windows now, everything's working fine. Everything's looking good. I know that searchlight is going to really be like a big, it's not going to really be focused. And that's at 9 volts. And you can see the floodlights underneath are working fine. It looks pretty cool. Getting there. It looks really cool. I got those characters on the inside. Characters, you know, figures that might not show up here on camera. It looks really cool. There's a good look of it right there. Everything looks pretty cool. Everything's working. Slowly getting there with the Seaview. I figured I'd show everybody at least what it looks like hooked up. And I'll go ahead and pause for now and talk with everybody later. Alright everybody, yesterday was October 7th. I was off Monday, and I worked on the front of the Seaview. I attached a conning tower. That turned out really nice. I attached the lens for the searchlight in the front, and the other day, over the weekend, I attached lenses for the floodlights. I got it hooked up to some power right now. I got it set at 9 volts. Like I said, I'm going to call it a wrap for update number 15. It's been a while since I posted on the Seaview on my YouTube channel because I was involved with the Halloween group build. I got that done and out of the way. Now I'm focusing on getting the Seaview done. I'm going to try to do this. It's going to be a little tricky. You can see here underneath I've got the floodlight lenses in. Everything looks really cool, and then you can see the lighting I got for the flying sub bay. That's lit up in red. That looks pretty cool. That turned out really nice. Those lenses were a little tricky, but I got them in place. No problem. I used micro crystal clear. This is what I used here. It's kind of hard with holding the camera. That's what I used to apply the lens for the front of the sub, the searchlight lens, and then the floodlight lens. I used a micro crystal clear. I could have used a Formula 560 canopy glue, but I went ahead and used a micro crystal clear. Let me go ahead and shut some of the lights off down here in my shop. That's one thing good about working in the basement. Now we can get a look at the inside of the sub. Everything's looking really cool. Everything's working fine. All the lights and everything in the control room are working great. You can see here. It looks really cool. Windows turned out really nice and clear. Fun part is going to mask the windows off and mask the front there, the searchlight. You can see there. It looks pretty cool. My next focus will be on the rear of the sub. I work my 4 days this week, and then I'm off the weekend coming up, so I can get down there for a few hours every day this week and work on the rear of the sub. It's not going to take as long to get that assembled. The tricky part is wiring everything up and then hooking up the front and the rear of the sub and get it together. I did have the front of the sub in my spray booth now that I got it extended. It looks pretty cool just with the front of the sub inside the spray booth. But I figured I'd give everybody another look. Like I said, I'm going to call this a wrap for update number 15. I'll see if I got time today to post this up on my YouTube channel or do that sometime this week. I've got a lot of video I got to edit on my computer, get it all together and put this up. I can't wait till this project's done and out of the way. I can move on to another kit. This will go in my display case when I'm done with it. I'll show how that looks when that's done. I can't wait to use my iWater mini spray gun on this. I'll probably go ahead and hit it with some adhesion promoter, and then go over it with the primer. I just like using the adhesion promoter because it really does a good job, and it bonds the primer even more. So like I said, I'm going to call this a wrap for update number 15. I'd like to thank all my YouTube subscribers. I'd like to thank everybody for watching. More on the sub to come, and I'll talk with everybody later.